Very good afternoon, President of the High Court Bar Association, the members of the High Court Bar Association, Panjim Lawyers Forum, Senior Counsels, Padma Shri Madam Norma Alvarez, all my friends. In fact, I'm a bit emotional. A couple of days ago, the President phoned me. He asked me, is it possible for you to come to Goa? I knew I had already committed to the National Judicial Academy at Bhopal to be a resource person for this 2 days conference. I told him, I'll let you know the next day. But I had already made up my mind. I had already taken the decision. And the time that was taken was only to convey my regrets to Bhopal Judicial Academy. In fact, absolutely there was no dilemma. There was no decision-making process here. Decision was already taken because it was an opportunity for me to be amidst you. And possibly many of you will not understand my feelings, my emotions, because for that you have to be away from your state. You have to be away from your family. You have to be away from your friends. And most importantly, you have to be away from your colleagues. You have to be away from the lawyers. You have to be away from the staff of the institution of which all of you all are integral part and with whom I have spent more than 2 decades in this state. So it was that emotional moment for me when the President called me and invited me for this function. And for me, it was very important, very significant, maybe more than being the First Lady Judge of this state. In fact, my colleagues very often, and especially our dear Chief Justice Dipankar Datta, as his Lordship then was, would very often quiz me about my love and attachment for the state. And I would always reply, you can take a Goan out of Goa, but you can never take Goa out of a Goan. So I'm here with you. I must thank the President and the Association and Panjim Forum to giving me an opportunity to be amidst you and to share my thoughts on women empowerment. Friends, when we talk about women, we know that she's the fulcrum of the family. She's a daughter, she is a sister, a mother, wife, companion, and a friend, and many more relationships. So when we talk about violation of our rights, it is not just a violation of women's right or human right, and it is not only the woman who gets affected by this. These are the men. The father gets affected, the brother gets affected, the husband gets affected. In short, the men get affected. The family gets affected, the society gets affected, and the nation gets affected. So, empowerment of women is very essential. It is indispensable. I would like to quote Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, an epitome of knowledge who had ignited many young minds when he said, and I quote, empowering women is a prerequisite for creating a good nation. When women are empowered, society with stability is assured. Empowerment of women is essential as their value system leads to the development of a good family, society, and ultimately a good nation. Unquote. Empowerment is a multidimensional process which would enable women to realize their full potential and identity in all spheres of life. Women empowerment includes promoting women's self-worth, their ability to determine their own choices, their right to influence change, social change for themselves and for others. I need not emphasize, in India, we have had many ladies of great strength. We have had great warriors in Rani Lakshmibai, Rani Chennamma, Chand Bibi. We had a great social reformers in Savitribai Phule, Ramabai Ranade, Fatima Sheikh, who dedicated their lives to empower women. We have freedom fighters, we have great artists, we have astronauts, we have writers, we have singers, we have professionals who have reached great heights of recognition in every field, and whose contribution to the society and the nation is immense and invaluable. Friends, as we acknowledge the great contribution of all these achievers, we mustn't forget that there are millions who swim against the current. There are voiceless voices. They scream loud to make their voice heard. There are millions who are striving to make their presence, or rather very existence, felt. So these are not just here in this country or in this state, but they are all over the country, all over the globe. In fact, as we deal, most of you all must be knowing, as we deal with matters day in and day out in the courts, we realize we face this paradoxical situation. We worship Lakshmi, goddess of wealth, and we see young girls trafficked for just few coins. In fact, many of you must have dealt with these matters of trafficking, child trafficking. It's when you hear their stories, it really sends that shivers down your spine. You cannot even listen to the stories, and you can imagine what the girl child or the lady must be going through. We worship Saraswati, goddess of wisdom, but we do not give equal opportunity to a girl child to shape her potentials, to achieve her goals, to fulfill her dreams because of our discriminatory stereotypes. We worship Ma Durga, the goddess of strength, the indestructible, the invincible, and yet we find many girls, many women destroyed not only physically, emotionally, psychologically, socially, economically. We worship Mother Mary. We have conferred sainthood on Mother Teresa, an embodiment of love and compassion. We worship the divine womanhood, and how easily we forget they are mortals. Friends, today is the day to remember these mortals. Today is the day to acknowledge the issues issues which are faced by these mortals, and to gap this bridge between empowered women and those that marginalized section. In fact, for this marginalized section, equality is not even a distant dream. Many a times it's just a myth. In fact, efforts are made to bridge this gap. Several women-specific laws have been enacted to tackle the issues. I would just like to refer to certain judgments which have been recently passed. In X versus Principal Secretary Health and Family Welfare Department, Government of NCT Delhi and another, the Supreme Court has held that all women are entitled to safe and legal abortion. The court held that if women with unwanted pregnancies are forced to carry their pregnancies to term, the state would be stripping them of their right to determine their immediate and long-term path their lives would take, depriving women of autonomy not only over their bodies but over their lives would be an affront to their dignity. In Kamlaneti versus the Special Identification Officer, the Supreme Court has acknowledged the right of daughter of tribal community to equal share in the property of the father. In Miss Akela Lalitha versus Sri Konda Hanumantrao, the Supreme Court held that a mother who remarries has, after the death of the biological father, can decide the surname of the child as well as the right to give the child in adoption. The Supreme Court in the state of Jharkhand versus Shailendra Kumar Rai, while deprecating the two-finger test, held that a person conducting such test shall be guilty of misconduct. In Deepika Singh versus Central Administrative Tribunal, the Supreme Court has observed that grant of maternity leave is intended to facilitate the continuance of women in workplace. The Supreme Court observed, but for such provisions, many women would be compelled by social circumstances to give up work on the birth of a child. In the Secretary Ministry of Defence versus Babita Punia, the judgment which will always be remembered as one of the best judgments which heralded gender equality in defence services, the bench headed by now the Honourable Chief Justice Dr. Chandrachud observed that it is insult to women officers and to the Indian Army when aspersions are cast on women, their potentials, their ability and achievement in Army. Every such decision brings us closer to a future where exploitation, discrimination will be a faded memory, and it will bring us closer to, it will make gender equality a welcome reality. It is true, as mentioned by several speakers earlier, women all over the world, and especially in India, they have achieved great heights. They have come a long way to achieve this present position. And they are also making significant contribution culturally, in political spheres, and breaking away every glass ceiling in every field. As I said, yet millions continue to face inequality, discrimination, and violence in their daily life. There are several constraints: lack of education, lack of health facilities, lack of economic independence, lack of awareness of legal and other constitutional provisions. This lack of awareness hinders the process of empowerment. As Virginia Woolf said, women can achieve social and creative liberation only if they are allowed equal access to education and financial independence. Hence, there is need to promote education, there is need to ensure their economic development, to enhance their health condition and prevent exploitation, violence against women. Friends, many of us are lucky that we have not faced the brunt of discrimination in our journey of life. Yet, even amidst us, there may be many who, despite their qualifications, are struggling to surpass these hurdles. I can only say that you, the lawyers, men and women included, you are amongst the fortunate ones to have this opportunity of having entered this noble profession. Be proud of your profession. You have within you the potential to fight for whatever is right. Unleash your potentials in all dimensions. Learn to navigate through new circumstances and challenges. Believe in yourself. Believe in your abilities. Be ambitious. Be confident. Be focused. Yet, be compassionate and be kind. Be determined, because it is said, there is no greater force than a determined man or a woman. As you move forward, be a guiding light to those who are still groping in the dark. Be a voice to those voiceless millions who are screaming in silence. Be an agent of change. Be their strength to help them soar high. Be their inspiration, not just today, but every day. After all, celebrating Women's Day is all about valuing oneself and realizing one's full potential and helping others to realize their dreams. I would just conclude with a few lines which I had penned down several years ago. But today, being a Women's Day, I would just like to burden you with this. I said, in fact, this was written after the Nirbhaya case. I am a woman. I am a woman with dreams in my eyes. I have no fears. I shed no tears. I feel no pain or sorrow because I can see a better tomorrow. I am a woman with my thoughts soaring high. Every minute of the day and night, I am like a guiding light. I am not a painted face. I am not a tainted soul. I am not a voiceless voice. I am a woman, one of a kind, with a beautiful mind. I am the divine mother of the mankind. So before I conclude, I thank the association, the forum, not only on my behalf, but I have been conveyed by Justice Karnik to thank all of you. I have been asked by him to congratulate Madam Agni, Madam Alvarez. I have been asked by him to tell you that he has really missed this function and that he would have been happy to be here if it was not for some unforeseen circumstances. So this is from him. And once again, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be amidst you.